Hi there and welcome back. Now, a few videos ago I mentioned that I've been getting some questions from subscribers on certain issues that I've been mentioning in the video so far, and I said I'd do a quick Q&A video. So then, that's what today's video is all about, answering your questions. First off the mark is Nicholas Johnson, and Nicholas says, thank you very much for another awesome video. Thank you very much, Nicholas. Question, you mentioned in some cases that it's not critical for the drummer to have the ability to read their score. What is your opinion on the same situations, however, for guitarists? Many scores that I've heard and seen are just chord symbols. Thanks for helping out a very young MD. Well, Mr. Very Young MD, you're absolutely right. The vast majority of guitar parts do use chord symbols. However, it's worth mentioning that some of these chords can be quite complex. So if the musical that you're working on has what you could say a jazz influence style, it may be the case that some of these chords may be too advanced. Having said that, I would encourage all musicians, whether they read or not, to get involved in our theatre bands. Also, it's worth mentioning that some of these guitar parts do have some melody lines written, and therefore your guitarist may need to commit these to memory. Next on the list, Trumpet Tim is bound to be a brass player. Have you dealt with the dreaded behind the beat string section? Ooh, Tim, how insulting to string players. But yes, this only ever happens with string sections, normally operetta. I don't think I've ever had this issue with wind, brass or percussion. Bear in mind that I'm a brass player, yes I thought you was, and haven't ever picked up a violin before, so there may be something that I'm missing. No, you're definitely not missing anything, Tim. And this is my theory. String players are very likely to have come from a classical background, and therefore their experience in playing collectively will no doubt have been mainly classical works in repertoire. Conductors of classical works tend to put more emphasis on the feel and emotion of the music while conducting. They're much more flamboyant rather than the strict tempo that we're used to. As such, these players will tend to play behind the beat, as you say. How do you get around it? Well, you just need to explain at your band or orchestra rehearsal how you intend to conduct. And remember, you're the music director, you're the leader, and what you say goes. Next up then is Chris Spiteri. And Chris writes, not many books out there about beating the correct or close to correct BPM. Maybe you can let us know how you deal with this. Well, Chris, you're right. There's very little information about how best to learn beats per minute. I would suggest that you start by learning 60 beats per minute. A beat a second is relatively easy to learn. Once you've done that, you can then double it up to 120. Once you've learned 120, you should be able to judge, say, 100, and so on and so forth. It's not ideal, but a good starting point. Let's try it. So taking a look at your watch, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 60 beats per minute, and you could double that up then to 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You could of course purchase one of these. Many nowadays are under $7, £5. Some have a light instead of any sound that you could have it nearby on silent. Some have an earphone socket. I have a free one downloaded onto my iPhone. One word of warning, however, is that I wouldn't really advise having anything beating in your ear, because if your band does get out of sync and you've got that going off in your head, it could cause a few problems. One really important point though, always, always, always have a very clear tempo in your head before you start your counting. I've seen so many so-called conductors start to beat and then decide that the tempo needs adjusting within the first few bars. Not good. And next I've had a comment from Heather Miller, and Heather writes, I am concerned as a director of a pit orchestra, possibly working with a director and cast that doesn't know how to read music. Suggestions. Just for information, I've never directed a pit orchestra before. Well, Heather, you don't need to be concerned. Many directors don't read music. During the rehearsal process, just be aware of what the director is doing. Sometimes they have no idea that there is music for an intro or any underscoring. That's where you need to be on your game and constantly alert to such things at rehearsals. Remember, being an MD is much more than teaching the songs. When it comes to the cast not reading music, that's not necessarily a problem. In fact, it could be seen as an advantage. Any harmony singing in the score may be where the issue is, hence breaking the lines down bit by bit, and encourage your cast to record rehearsals so that they can record their own harmony lines. Non-music readers usually learn these lines much easier anyway. And as the music director, don't fall into the trap that many do by feeling that you're secondary to the director of the production. You're just as important. And when you're with your band in the pit, remember, clarity is your goal, and be as prepared as you can for any eventuality. And finally, for now, I've had a message from Heidi Cooper, and Heidi says that she is currently MDing a production where she will be leading the band from the piano. And do I have any tips on this? Well, Heidi, and anyone else interested in this and the techniques involved, I'm currently preparing a video on this very subject, so watch out for that. Hope that's helped. Keep your questions coming on any areas of music direction in musical theatre. See you next time.